gave you a good, warm feeling on a first impression with a talk from him. It was really special. Jerry, at that time, supervised parts of several states, and after that meeting, he kept growing with the company, and he expanded and expanded, and needless to say, he was one of the very best of the company. And he got promoted to another level, which encompassed Martian, where we live down in the Quad City area, in our area. So I had the opportunity to work with Jerry over a period of time. And I have to tell you, it was just a matter of a few weeks or a few months. All my salespeople and myself, we got in touch. We felt the leadership with Jerry. It was just special. Pretty soon they were doubling their sales. Now, in sales, when you double your sales, what happens to your income? You double your income too, don't you? Well, everybody just kept growing and growing and growing, and the confidence level kept getting better and better and better and better. And came a time where he got a huge promotion, just a huge promotion, and he deserved it. He deserved it because he was a tremendous influence on everybody he came in touch with. And our company kept growing and doing very well. And then later on, however, we got new home office management, and everything changed, and things started going downhill with that company. And with Jerry's integrity and everything, he just couldn't work there. He resigned. He says, that's enough. So we kept talking on the phone back and forth, and he was in Dayton, Ohio, and I was in the Quad City area. And one day he says, hey, I think I've come across something that's kind of special. He says, you should come out and take a look at it. I said, oh, sure, because I trusted him 100%. I mean, my God, what he had done for me and my family and everybody. I said, oh, my golly, and our salespeople. So I came out, took a look at the business, and a lot of good things happened on that visit. I came in touch with the rest of the Vanderhorst family, the children, and I saw in them the same thing that I saw in Jerry and Janet, just special people, and really fun to be around, and good quality. And today, I don't have to tell you because you already know, but they're so successful, and they've done so many good things, and it's just a really, really good story with Jerry and Janet. Anyway, I called Marcia, my wife, in Bettendorf, Iowa, and I said, Marcia, sell the house. We're moving to Dayton, Ohio. And of course, she says, what's going on? I told her, and she says, okay. And so I came out and stayed with Jerry and Janet and the family, and got started in the business. And Marcia moved out here a couple months later, and that was 1973. And we started from scratch, actually. But Jerry had such a vision. He, like Rick said, he could see down the road 2 years. He could see things happening 5 years. If you did this and this and this, that's going to happen. He had such a vision. And we started down on Kettering Boulevard with a small office. We outgrew that after a few months. And then pretty soon we kept getting promoted and promoted and promoted. And he became the #1 manager in the company and vice president of the company. And it was really, really special. But talking about Jerry just for a moment, most of you already know these facts, but he was an Eagle Scout, St. Mary's High School Hall of Famer, UD Hall of Famer, drafted by the Los Angeles Rams, international skeet shooter. You know what international is? That's pretty big. And he was a great golfer and tennis player. We had so much fun. And along with the Agganis Club and everything else, we had so many good stories. I just can't tell you all of them. But it was just terrific. I'm running out of time, but with our company, um, Jerry and Janet had their August 12th anniversary, wedding anniversary every year, and we go down to French Lick or someplace. And that was one of our favorite places. We had there's a lot of people in the room today who attended those. We had a lot of good times. And one day we were out there playing golf, and just tell you a short story. Dean Riddle and Jerry, and we playing golf, and we were following Larry Bird and his brother and two other guys. And the foursome in front of them got held up. So we caught up with Larry Bird and you know, the Hall of Famer basketball player. And of course, he was a really nice guy. We had a conversation with him. And Dean Riddle, my manager from Mansfield, he was about my size. He came over to Larry and he said, "Larry, can I ask you a question?" He's looking up at him. "Larry, can I ask you a question?" He said, "Yeah, what?" He said, "How come you're so tall?" Well, Larry looked down at him and he says, "How come you're so short?" But anyway, Larry was a nice guy, and he had his own basketball court down there, and most of you remember all those things. But I know I'm out of time, but we had so many good stories in the Vanderhorst family, and Marcia and I and son Dave. And I just tell you one other thing about Jerry. He just cared so much for anybody and everybody he came in contact with. And 4 years ago this month, our son Brian had an unexpected, heart attack and passed away. And Jerry was the first guy that got on the phone, contacted all of our people, and told them about the funeral arrangements and everything. I mean, he just had such a loving, caring heart. We just loved him to death. And I can't say enough for him today. He's just really special. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David. He loved you as much as anyone I know. You know, my dad's second family were those people that he was in business with. It was a relationship built on common goals, sweat, and a desire to make those individuals and their families more successful in life. Late in his career, he and I were sitting there having lunch one day, and I asked him a question. I said, "Dad, at this stage in your career, what are your goals? I mean, what are you trying to accomplish?" And he said something very interesting to me. He said that what he wanted to do was build the greatest sales organization in the world, and then know that every person that worked for him was a much better human being than they ever were a salesman. I look out now, and I see Rick Fromling, I see Tom Smaxwell, I see Jess Rokas, Suter Smith, so many of the people that we work with. And I'm quite sure that my dad is gratified to know that he accomplished that goal. Because as good a salespeople as you guys are, you're much better human beings. And I congratulate you on that. I will tell you, it takes some big shoes to fill his shoes in an organization like ours. And we were very fortunate that we had an individual in Steve Gaffney who worked with my dad for over 20 years and has been with us every step of the way, being mentored by my father and working with every one of you. His leadership, his integrity, his business ethics have moved him into a position where he's now the CEO and president of Penn Global. He was like a son to my mom and my dad. He's certainly like a brother to me. I'm very proud to call him my partner, and I'd like to have Steve Gaffney come up and say a few words. Steve?
Someplace I never thought I would be, and I don't mean Dayton. Kathy and I brought two daughters here to look at the school, so we've had the tour. Our oldest chose University of Notre Dame, not a bad decision, and our youngest fell in love with a little school in Oxford, Ohio, on the way over here, so she wound up going to Miami. But really, I've always felt strong ties. We're from the St. Louis area, and I think we represent, University of Dayton pretty strong from St. Louis. I don't have any notes with me today for a reason, because my role is as the spokesperson, at least today, for so many people that are sitting in the back and are at meetings this weekend with us in Cincinnati. I guess they've heard everything I have to say, so I'm going to speak to the rest of you. But I should start by saying, Janet, thank you for sharing Jerry with us all these years. To the children. To the children and grandchildren, son-in-laws, daughter-in-laws, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, thanks a lot. I'm just going to take a minute and tell you, I answered a newspaper ad. I don't know if many people can relate to that, but I had graduated from college. I had spent 2 years in the United States Army. I had married my high school sweetheart and was sitting in an apartment in my hometown of St. Charles, Illinois, going through 60 pages of want ads in the Chicago Tribune, looking for something to jump out and smack me upside the head. And a single ad grabbed me. And Michael Mitzen knows the ad very well, because about 11 months later it grabbed him, and thanks. My mother, who had watched her second son be the first member of our family ever to graduate from college, had a definitive plan for me, and it wasn't commission sales. And it wasn't commission sales in those days, where we traveled Monday through Friday. We paid our own expenses. We got in our car at 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday and came home about 10 o'clock at night on Friday. That wasn't what she had in mind. When she went to Bridge Club and told her friends what her son was doing, a devout Catholic, but I think my mother was lying just a little bit, because when I would see them sometimes on weekend, they didn't seem to be talking about the same job that I had. The first managers meeting that Michael and I ever attended was the first time I met Jerry Vanderhorst. And I got to tell you something. I'm not proud of this. It's just a statement of fact. I really wasn't 2 feet in the business at that point. I was earning a living. It's what I was doing on Monday morning and until Friday night, but I wasn't 2 feet in. But there at that meeting in Chicago, Mr. Vanderhorst walked in the door. From the moment he walked in the door, there was validation for me. If a man like that chose to do this with that company, then I was in the right place. And now, 40 years later, I've never looked back. But my relationship with Jerry is different than a lot of people in the room, because yes, I believe he took an interest in me. But my mother raised a son to question things. My mother loved to argue. See, my dad would travel, and when he was home, we couldn't argue. That's not what kids did. But my mother, I'm telling you, when the young ones were in bed, it was 10 o'clock at night, my mother would love it when I'd come down after studying. I'm in high school, and I would just sit there, and we would talk politics, we'd talk religion. Oh, the veins in her neck would be sticking out. She'd get so mad at me when I questioned anything about religion. And Jerry and I developed that relationship. And I saw the veins in his neck stick out just a few times. I saw the thing in the middle of the forehead, like, where do you come from? But he always would listen. And he would always give me what he believed to be his best advice. Jerry's so loyal to the salespeople. I got to tell you, Jess Rokas was sharing a story with me last night. Jess is with the company longer than I am. Jess is a legend with us in the Mid-South region. Jess was talking about the fact that, so many years ago, we had an executive vice president of the old PennCorp financial days. Our home offices are out in Santa Monica, California. And this guy is a British guy. His name was Les Moss. And Les Moss had sent a letter to Jess questioning something that Jess and his management team were doing. And so Jess picked up the phone right away, and he called Jerry Vanderhorst, and Jerry said, read it to me. And so Jess read the letter to Jerry, and Jerry said, I want you to right now, I want you to sit down, and I want you to write a letter of reprimand to Les Moss. And Jess was the nicest guy in the world. Jess says, I can't do that. He's an executive vice president. And Jerry said, and I quote, and Rick, you can relate to this, he said he's a clerk. Now send the letter. You know? Michael Mitson and I, years ago, we're looking to have a function someplace where we can bring our Chicago people and our Washington, D.C. people and our St. Louis people to a spot. And so, as clever as we are, we went to a map and we chose Dayton, Ohio. And Dave Rushing and the guys said, yeah, you can use the offices on a Saturday. And so we came over on Saturday. We had the meetings. Dave, you spoke at our meeting. We'll never forget it, how great it was. And Rick and Tom were over. But after the meeting was over, and Janet, I don't know if you remember this, you had not too long before that moved into your beautiful new home. And you asked all of us to come to the house, where Jerry was outside in this midsummer day, and he was cooking these burgers, like Lumburgers or something. It was like some special recipe, you know? And I mean, he wouldn't let anybody near it, you know? Oh, no, you know, I say, can I help you? No, you can't do this. You don't qualify to do this. And he was out there, you know, perspiration just dripping off him. He was feeding his troops. And Michael and I stayed afterwards, after everyone else had left. We were in the kitchen with Janet and Jerry, and I got to tell you something. I don't think I ever felt more comfortable in my entire life. One night at the Greenbrier, Jerry, the cigar, but that's a good one. Jerry's out there with that. I don't remember a Cuban cigar, but I remember it being a stinky cigar, if that's okay for me to say. And Jerry and I are talking. And he said, okay, and he's take deep puff in the cigar. He said, what are we going to talk about tonight? I said, Jerry, let's talk about your deal. And I've talked to Rick about this for many times over the years. He said,